Welcome back, everybody. We're gonna be dunking on Matt Walsh again today, a favorite pastime on the Xander Hall channel, if I do say so myself. You see, he put out a new video, and for once, we're not talking about some new nonsense discourse. Instead, we're just covering some basic political commentary. Just some good old-fashioned classic Matt Walsh content. And we're gonna be ripping it apart. I'm gonna have a great time. Hopefully you guys will have a great time watching it, so I figure without too much further ado, we should just get right into it. He made this video called "Why Did Fun American Neighborhoods Vanish? This Might Be the Reason." I don't know what the video is going to claim, because I don't pre-watch these things, but I have a theory. I bet he's gonna try to blame walkable cities. He's gonna try to blame walkable city planning. Conservatives like Matt Walsh are very in favor of either living extremely rural or living in cities that are heavily car dependent. The idea of walkable cities and a lot of public transportation is demonic in their worldview. They want those large, sprawling, endless suburbs. They're big fans of that. Very car-dependent, sprawling, wide, suburb-heavy cities with, like, blocks and blocks and blocks of houses before you even find one grocery store or gas station. But that aside, if you end up liking this video, like down below. It helps a ton. Comment down below as well if you want to boost the video a little extra. Subscribe and ring the bell icon if you want to see more from me in the future. And be sure to join the fan Discord, the link down below as well. Without any further ado though, let's get straight to dunking on Matt Walsh. I'm giddy. I can't contain myself anymore.
Now that we live in a wonderful world of ubiquitous statistics where virtually everything is tracked, from the real-time biometrics of NFL players to the precise amount of time you spent listening to Spotify while you were on the toilet last year, it's easy to fall into the trap of worshiping data and raw information.
I forgot how fake and gay Matt Walsh is, dude. His whole set is so cringe and fake. It looks like 90% of the shit here was bought from the staff of a closing down Cracker Barrel. Like, there's no way he actually canoes and fishes and stuff like that. This entire set, the whole like woodworking thing, the fishing and all that, like all the Daily Wire hosts have their own custom set that leans into some traditionally masculine like try hard shit. You know, Matt Walsh's set is very much leaning into the rustic woodworker frontiersman vibe, and he dresses the part too, but it's a character. All these people were they were theater kids. Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, Ben Shapiro, Harvard Law graduate. Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles were both theater kids. Let me be very clear. Matt Walsh is a theater kid. He was a theater kid. This is not him. This is not his scene. This is not his look. He is playing a character right now very blatantly. His actual real life background is theater kid. Think about that for a moment. He's a failed actor. He's absolutely not being genuine with his set and presentation here.
It's easy to fall into the trap of worshiping data and raw information. At no point in American history have we been able to quantify so many different aspects of day-to-day life, which is probably not a healthy thing. Prediction markets, DraftKings, AI assistants, they all contribute to the quantification of everything. And one inevitable side effect of this development is that we've all developed a real blind spot for massive signs of civilizational decay that are very difficult, if not impossible, to measure in a scientific way.
Okay, so we're starting the video off by saying collecting data in order to track trends in society is bad. And we're only less than a minute into the video, and Matt Walsh has already claimed collecting data to track trends in society is bad because it might make you start to not use vibes. That's literally what he's saying right now. It is bad when you use data and not vibes to come to conclusions about the direction society is going in. Don't look at data, it makes you blind to the vibes.
I'm talking about ways in which our life is clearly getting worse, and everybody knows it, even though there's no widely recognized, peer-reviewed metric to prove it exactly. Now, we've talked in the past about various manifestations of this decline, including the quality of restaurant food and the quality of children's entertainment all going down. But maybe the best example of what I'm talking
Ironically, both of those things can be measured with data. Matt, are you aware that there are two companies that 99% of restaurants in America source their ingredients from? One of the biggest being US Foods. Like, you know, you can literally, like, research where US Foods sources its produce and meat and find out why restaurant food is worse. Within, like, easily under half an hour, you could come to an answer on that if you wanted to actually do the research. But you don't. You're just grifting. That's true, by the way. Like, 90% of restaurants in America get their ingredients for their food from one of two different companies that provide their produce and ingredients. And one of the big ones I know of, from a friend and family member in the restaurant industry, is US Foods, famously. Everyone knows US Foods.
About is the death of
You've probably seen their semis on the road, like carrying shitloads of food. If you're ever in a zombie apocalypse or any end of the world scenario, by the way, and you see a wrecked US Foods truck, that is like the ultimate mother load. That is like, you need to lock that shit down.
Neighborliness and fun neighborhoods. It's a very real issue that's almost never talked about. When did neighborhoods, even suburban neighborhoods in nice areas, become such cold, uninviting, antisocial places?
Where do you live? Do you live in a gated community? Because that's very true in gated communities. Let me tell you, dude. Holy fuck. When I lived in Florida previously, before I moved to California, from there I moved to where I am now, which is Washington, I lived in a gated community. And a lot of the housing developments in Florida are gated communities that you have to, like, pass a gate guard to get in. And they're, like, heavily under HOAs. So, like, you have so much as a stain on your driveway for a day, and you're gonna get fined by the HOA. It's like living in Nazi Germany the second you get through those gates, right? Very unpleasant, but a lot more places that are getting developed in Florida are just defaulting to being these gated communities. And the rules that these communities have are insane. I'm pretty sure the one I lived in had a rule that unless you own a house there, like, if you're young, you have to... I think they had the same rules as the villages. Like, I got weird looks being a teenager walking around just to, like, take a walk. Like, the old boomers would drive by and give me dirty looks because I was a teenager walking down the street. And it's like, I live here! I'm just taking a walk! Why are you giving me dirty looks? I'm white! You're giving me dirty looks like I'm a black guy walking down the street just because I'm a teenager in the gated community. It is so... These, like, racist, old, crusty boomers are so bitter. They hate young people. They want to live in their gated communities and their six-figure fucking houses. And they want to never see a child playing in a front yard. They do not want to see kids. They do not want to see teenagers. They do not want to hear noise outside their houses or have any kind of community around them outside of the local country club. That is what is killing the vibe of American neighborhoods. Gated communities, HOAs, old boomers who will call 911 on you if you let your kids get too loud in the front yard, or will shoot your dog if it wanders into their yard. Like, yeah, that's the kind of shit ruining the vibe of the classic American neighborhood. Also, we've just gotten a lot more antisocial.
Why is it that if you're a typical American living in a suburb, you probably don't have a great place to take your kids to hang out? You don't have good friends on the block. You don't spend a lot of time at local events. You might not even know you might have never even spoken to your neighbors. Now, it was more than 25 years ago that a political scientist named Robert Putnam wrote the book Bowling Alone about the decline of social capital.
Well, yeah, Zan. Kids these days are woke and gay and black and stuff. True.
And meaningful relationships in America. And to this day, that's still the book that's always brought up when people try to have this conversation. University professors are still citing Putnam's findings about how Americans aren't joining civic groups and bowling leagues and so on. But the decline has only gotten much, much worse over the past 25 years. And remember, he wrote this before things like social media, before our lives had migrated fully to the internet. He had already spotted this problem. So think about how much worse it's gotten. And although you won't find the evidence in a sociology textbook,
I do think that a big part of it, like, the internet's obviously taking up a lot more of people's time, but the internet's overlapped a bit for a good while with times where people's social ability was not too fucked. Like, there's always been social media addiction, but this is different. What society is going through right now is different than just standard social media internet addiction. That people still have relatively functional social lives, even while being addicted to their phones and their computers and stuff. What's happening right now really feels like people are losing the energy and comfort necessary to dedicate any time to developing their social lives at all. Like, especially in the last 10 years, wages have not risen basically at all. Like, wages have not really risen much in the last 10 to 15 years, but inflation has been significant. Like, I think something like a fifth? Like there's been like a 20% inflation increase, or like a 18% inflation increase over the last 10 years. I mean, year by year, it's around 2 to 3%. So yeah, and wages have not gone up at all to meet that. So in the last decade alone, the rate of inflation has really outpaced wage growth. The last decade has been people descending into their hard work at their jobs, paying them not literally less, but the money they're getting paid is going much less far than it did even a year before, or 2 years before, 3 years before, and certainly 10 years before. People are working harder than ever, picking up more work hours than ever, and yet they're broker than ever. How could you possibly have the energy or desire to focus any time on your social life, developing friendships, and spending time in a third place when you're like, fuck, I'm working overtime and I'm still broke? You know, like, that's where a lot of people are right now. We're really culminating in that recession period right now, with that catching up to us. But you can't go a decade plus with a 2 to 3% year by year inflation rate and practically no wage growth and not expect serious consequences.
It's all over the internet that this has gotten a lot worse. Consider the very sad but increasingly popular TikTok genre of lonely Halloweens. This is something I noticed in my own neighborhood as well.
Blame the lockdowns for how critically online the world is in culture. Dude, there were no lockdowns. What are you talking about? There were no lockdowns in America. Are you talking about schools being closed? Because that's the closest there was. We had no enforced lockdowns in America. There was no... I have lived in 3 different states throughout COVID, and at no point was there ever a time where I was under a curfew and wasn't allowed to go outside. The worst case scenario was, shit, everything's closed at 6 p.m. This sucks.
Over the past few years, trick-or-treating in a lot of places is all but dead. A lot of people have stopped putting up decorations or hosting gatherings entirely. But even households that do want to participate in Halloween are coming to the realization that kids aren't nearly as interested anymore. Watch.
They do this every year.
The kids found out it's just easier to go to the dollar store the next day after Halloween and just buy up all the cheap clearance candy. So the kids just stay home and play video games on Halloween, and they go to the dollar store the next day with like a 20 and clean them out.
Why? Doesn't anyone love me?
How long is this going to take?
It's the full-size candy for trick-or-treaters. Only 3 kids have showed up. At least the house looks cool.
The left has won the war on Halloween, it turns out. I feel like this video has been in Matt Walsh's backlog for a while. Why are we just now talking about Halloween? Like, New Year's was yesterday.
A monster from his slab began to rise, and suddenly
to my surprise.
Ah! I just realized. Oh no. Oh no. The company that owns the rights to spooky, scary skeletons is the most copyright happy of all time. And a few seconds of the song just played, and I didn't realize it. The video... Okay, so the video's gonna be this VOD and the video. I'll have to edit this out of the video if I remember to, but the VOD is probably gonna be instantly taken down by YouTube once I end stream, until I can have YouTube auto-edit out that segment. Fuck. I'm surprised Matt Walsh got away with it. Maybe YouTube just gives him preferential treatment, but like, anytime I've ever played Scary Spooky Skeletons on stream, my stream is instantly demonetized and blocked in all countries by the company that owns the rights to that song. It is, like, going back to, like, 2018, my entire time on YouTube, anytime I play that song, YouTube hits me with the hammer for it. Ugh.
My
This is a
mom
cover.
finally
Should be
can
safe.
afford to hand out candy to
Okay, I'm scared. This motherfucker needs to stop playing TikToks. They play way too much copyrighted music.
All right. You know that this is a common issue because
Matt, I do not benefit from YouTube's DEI program for conservatives, okay? You can do that shit. I can't.
some of the most popular videos on TikTok and YouTube are about the fact that kids don't trick-or-treat anymore. This video has more than 10 million views, for example. Watch.
Instead of partying on Halloween, we give out candy every year.
Trick-or-treaters.
We haven't lived in this house long enough, so we don't know if anyone's coming tonight.
I just bought a lot in case. I even got healthy options.
Oh. What are you doing?
I'm setting up lights
Why?
so they know where to come.
It's been an hour and there's still no one.
We have all our candy still.
Can I have a piece of candy?
No.
Why?
The kids need candy.
I don't think anyone's coming to our house, and Cobra is stress baking.
We're making snacks.
Okay. It looks really good.
Whatever happened to the Halloween spirit?
This very simple and straightforward 30-second video has half the viewership of the finale of Game of Thrones, and that's because it resonates. It's an experience everybody relates.
Is that? I mean, okay. I was gonna shit on Game of Thrones season 8 for easy internet backpats, but that did get like immense viewership. So
Still, everyone knows this kind of thing is happening at scale. We can all detect it, even if there are no studies that bear it out.
Zan, are you buffering right now, or is it just my internet shitty connection? According to OBS, I have dropped 0 frames all stream. So on my end, according to OBS at least, assuming it's not lying to me, there's been no complications in me delivering frames to YouTube. If YouTube has failed or your internet has failed at any point and you've buffered, that could have happened, but has anyone else been having buffering? Because if so, it's probably YouTube. But I haven't seen too many. I've seen a couple people complain about it, but once again, I've dropped 0 frames the whole stream, so not me. Okay. So it's probably just individual people's internet.
We can all see it, but we don't really know why. Now, for Halloween specifically, there are a lot of theories as to why young people aren't interested in trick-or-treating anymore. Maybe they're more interested in spending time on their cell phones than interacting with anybody in the real world. The COVID lockdowns, which forced children to become antisocial, obviously didn't help in that regard.
Once again, there were no lockdowns. Like, not in America. Like, I keep on, like, there's a Maxim Gorky in chat keeps on saying, it's the lockdowns, but the lockdowns did not happen in America. They're, like, it's not the UK or New Zealand or China where they literally had curfews and you couldn't go outside. I mean, granted, a lot of COVID I spent in Florida, but a lot of it I spent in California. You know, like, there were no law-enforced lockdowns. Yeah, they did? Okay, link me an example then, because all you've done is pull shit out of your ass, and I lived in California at the time, too, and yes, there was lockdowns. Okay, you know what? You've rage baited me enough that I'm willing to Google it. U.S. COVID lockdowns? Closing schools and kindergartens, closing non-essential shops. Implemented in numerous counties and territories, or countries and territories around the world. Yes, So no one was forced to stay in their houses. They just closed down schools. Once again, that is not a lockdown. A lockdown is forcing curfews, okay? Y'all talk about it like you were forced to stay in your house like people in the UK were. God, Americans are such fucking babies. No, closing restaurants and schools is not lockdowns, okay? Stop being pussies.
There's also the fact that our culture has been trending.
Over 1 million Americans died of COVID, and it wasn't enough for you people. You still wish it was more.
Heavily towards irony and cynicism. And therefore, insecurity is at an all-time high. Goofy traditions like where you go out in public in a ridiculous costume and interact with strangers, have fallen out of favor because they're considered embarrassing or uncool. So kids would rather stay inside, play video games, watch TikTok and YouTube videos, where they can watch an infinite number of other people being torn down and judged and ridiculed for one reason or another. Now, if you don't spend a lot of time in the world of TikTok, then you really have no idea how bad things have gotten. There's a whole genre of video called Pop the Balloon and Find Love, for example. It's like speed dating mixed with a game show. And in one
Matt, why are you so fucking boring?
incarnation of this concept, a preppy-looking host interviews a student, usually a guy, outside of his dorm room. And there's a bunch of girls lined up against the wall watching the interview with balloons, which they pop as soon as they hear something they don't like. The idea is that
I
if any
love
girl
those
is
videos. I love those videos. The ones where it's a right-wing guy who, like, one girl asks, what are your politics? And the guy says, oh, I voted for Trump. And then every balloon pops is my favorite clip of all time on the internet.
a balloon by the end of it, then the guy gets the chance to go out with her. But invariably, the guy says something extremely inconsequential that his audience doesn't approve of, and the girls pop the balloons and make some judgmental comments and walk away. That's the entire concept. Every one of these videos gets millions of views, if not tens of millions. The audience is predominantly children, and here's just one of the videos.
Probably not.
Welcome to Pop the Balloon. Can I have you stand right here? We're here with
Zach.
Zach. All right. All right, we're all good so far. What's your job?
My job?
Yeah. Do you have one?
I'm unemployed.
Oh my God. Okay. Why'd you pop?
Because we need an employed man.
Okay. Why'd you pop?
Because he has to be employed.
Can we have the final three come right here? What's your dream date?
They're literally in college, by the way. If you're not working a job while in college, then I'm not dating you. Obviously, this is actually a pretty good measure of, like, how many women in the general population are vapid and shitty, you know? Like, do you really want to... This is the thing about this kind of stuff. It's like, look how many women out there are toxic and awful, and it's like, okay. Like, isn't it good that toxic, awful women are getting more open and proud and upfront about it? Because, like, the worst thing ever is when you meet a nice girl, you hit it off, you start dating, and you're, like, together for a few weeks or months, and then her true colors start to show. If she's just a vapid bitch to you straight up from the get-go, that's your immediate, like, okay, well, I don't want to pursue a relationship with you. Like, if like, your standards alone are so, like, picky and like, that alone is a deal breaker, then why would I even want you to like me? Like, let's say that wasn't the deal breaker, but the next thing was. Why would I want you to be my girlfriend? A lot of guys don't see it that way, though. They just see it as like, oh, look how awful these women are. And it's like, well, you're just not compatible with them, obviously. Trust me, there are dudes who are down to get with those women. You're not those dudes, though. There are plenty of women out there, though, that are much more compatible with you. Plenty of fish in the sea. It's a billion-year-old quote that keeps getting usage for a reason. It's true.
You know, we go to downtown.
Okay.
A little Italy.
Yeah.
Get something to eat.
Ooh.
And then after, we go to Sunset Cliffs. Watch the sunset.
Why did you pop?
It's just so, like, cliche, romantic, like, boring.
Okay, well, you're cliche too.
Yeah, I need something more unique than that. So.
Okay, you can get out of here too. All right, we have our winners.
Now kiss.
Now, any culture in which trash
See, and that girl that he ended up with was probably the nicest. I can just tell, actually. No, I can just tell. Like, he ended up, and he ended up with the nicest girl there. you could tell all the rest of those girls were probably massive bitches. Like probably massive bitches. And this girl here is probably the nicest of them. She just looks nice. She probably plays video games. Who knows? They're probably gonna go in there and play a round of Fortnite now.
Now, any culture in which trashy videos like this get 10 million views or more, which this one did, is not going to have many kids dressing up in silly little costumes and going out with their parents and knocking on doors for candy. Videos like this.
What kind of retarded logic is that, Matt?
This are a sign of a culture that's preoccupied with being judgmental and sarcastic at every opportunity. And it used to be.
I feel like post-Railroad Spike Phineas Gage has more brain matter in his skull than Matt Walsh does when I hear this man speak.
That if you wanted to watch garbage like this, it meant that you were unemployed and sitting on your couch at 10 a.m. watching Jerry Springer or something like that. Now children and young adults are watching this kind of stuff all the time in huge numbers. And when you zoom out beyond the context of Halloween, that's a very bad omen for neighborhoods in general. Overly judgmental and sarcastic people usually aren't good friends. They don't want to spend time with you, and you don't want to spend time with them. But these observations still don't answer the fundamental.
Matt Walsh, did you just say that with a straight face? Overly sarcastic and judgmental people you identify as the problem. And yet, here you are, being sarcastic and judgmental as your brand. That's your whole thing. Your brand is being the sarcastic, judgmental guy with glasses and a beard on YouTube. That's your brand, bro. I don't know how it's insane, man. I am I'm getting rage baited by every conservative pundit these days.
Question of why our culture has transformed like this and why neighborhoods have become so antisocial. Why is it more common than ever for...
Hey, Zan, can we see you type? Listen, if you just want to know how I type like this, okay? I type like this. Listen, I may not know how to type, but I can write in cursive, okay? Bet a bunch of you motherfuckers can't write in cursive.
For everyone, especially young people, to hunker down and watch dumb videos on the internet rather than engage with their communities. Recently, I came across this video from a man returning to his hometown in Pomona, California, and he identifies the problem immediately. Watch.
So this is the home that I spent most of my childhood in. When I lived here, none of these fences were here. My neighborhood now is not like it used to be. All these.
Oh my god. Okay. I need to rant about this. This will be where we cut things off after this rant, okay? Because I'm so glad I get an opportunity to talk about this. Something that evokes okay, I have found there is a trend in a lot of people, okay? When you're young, when you're really young, I mean like 6, 7, 8 years old, you're kind of a little shithead, right? But then around 10, 11, 12, maybe, you can't, like, a lot of kids end up, like, formulating some basic morals and become a little bit more reasonable. Like you can reason with a 10-year-old in a way you can't reason with a 6-year-old. Like if a 6-year-old's holding a gun up to you for some reason, I'm pretty sure you're gonna die. Like, I don't think you can reason the 6-year-old out of shooting you, but a 10-year-old maybe. But then around like 13, 14, those morals start to evolve into like knowing right from wrong and choosing wrong because it's funny. And then usually around like entering adulthood, you go from being like an edgy little shithead teenager into being a little bit more of a well-rounded adult. And you start to have more compassion and whatnot. And these phases tend to define the politics, if you're even engaged in politics at all. This is why you'll often hear like 13 to 17-year-olds on the internet calling you slurs, but you're probably not going to hear a 10-year-old calling you slurs online. Like, it happens, don't get me wrong, but like the squeakers don't tend to be the ones like going hard with the slurs. It's usually like I can tell you're like a teenager over that mic, just screaming the N-word at me in Rust. Right? And then you've got, like, you know, once you get into, like, college age, you tend to become a bit more well-rounded, a little bit more well-adjusted. Oftentimes, college-age people are the most progressive they'll ever be in their lives at that age. That's statistically backed up. Most people of every generation will be at their most progressive politically at college age. But then it starts to swing the other way. As people start to get older, into their 30s, and especially towards their 40s, they start to swing more conservative, or at least a proportion of every generation starts to hard swing conservative around that age. And a big part of that is nostalgia turning bitter. Nostalgia is kind of sweet in your 20s, but at some point in your 30s, I've noticed, nostalgia turns bitter. It goes sour. It goes bad, like rotten food hitting its expiration date. Where it's not just, yeah, remember the old days, looking back fondly on the older world that you grew up in. You start to live by this mantra I've started to hear a lot lately online. The world you grew up in no longer exists. A bitterness and a resentment starts to form, not only for the world at how much it's changed and how unrecognizable it's become from when you grew up, but you become bitter, or not you, but people become bitter at younger generations for growing up in a different world than the absolutely superior different one that they grew up in. And so people, like, they get into their 30s, and that old neighborhood they grew up in, all the houses look different. Tons of them are painted, new trees have been planted, some have been torn down, and, you know, you can't drive through your old neighborhood you grew up in and be like, there's that tree I played with my friends at. That tree doesn't exist anymore. That house, your friend's house, got torn down and a new one got built up. You know, it's been 20 years. As you get older, the world, the nostalgia starts to sour for people. And that soured nostalgia breeds this, I want to call it fear and anger that's so effective for the right to take advantage of. Nostalgia is fascism? I don't think that's true. I think what people this blanket statement nostalgia as a whole, nostalgia can be, I love going back and playing Minecraft beta. It reminds me of when I was a kid. Or it can be seeing that, your neighborhood isn't recognizable from when you grew up, and it makes you angry. Or that, a franchise you grew up with is different now, and it's new releases, and it makes you angry. You know, it's when nostalgia turns sour, that's when it's bad. But that's what's being taken advantage here. Taken advantage of here is that, souring nostalgia that a lot of people get as they enter their 30s.
These fences and palm trees weren't here. You could run from yard to yard through each another's yard. All
Back in my day,
just run right through each neighborhood. As you can tell, this is what immigrant progress is. This is where...
Of course. I knew you had to blame it on brown people.
This is totally Hispanic now. It's not even close to being when I grew up. This is where it is. You see the screen doors with iron. That's how they're living in my old neighborhood. They're locked in. They're caged in. They're living in a prison. This is where my...
That's right, guys. If you've got an extra, I have these, where it's a cagey kind of door thing that closes first, and then you close your door, and so you can open your door and talk to someone through it. I don't live in a bad neighborhood or anything. It's just a nice feature to have, I guess, because it's an extra layer of security. But apparently, that's a cage. Oh my god, these people cannot be real. Yeah, it's basically a screen door, but it's made of metal, right? It's it could take a few hits from, a crowbar before it would start to give. You know what I mean? Anyway, though, that was absolute brain rot, and I hate that I watched it. I will never get those moments of my life back, and I blame all of you for that. But hey, I hope you enjoyed this segment. If you did, consider leaving a like down below. It really helps me in the video a lot. I appreciate it. Comment down below as well if you want to boost it a little extra. Say, Walsh fake. That'll be our code phrase for me to know you watched the whole video all the way to the end. It really does help when you comment, so I appreciate it a ton. Make sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon if you want to see more from me, and join my fan Discord if you haven't already. With that said, thank you so much for watching, and as always, I hope you have a good one. Hope to see you in the next one, too.